topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hi, I'm Shelby Wagner, your host of Learning to Dance in the Rain and author of the book with the same title. I welcome you to the show, and I hope that you will have a really good time today. I know I'm going to have a good time. My guest is Beth Hyland. And she is now working not far from me in Portage, Michigan, for the city. But she was born in the Detroit area, and I used to live there and near the Detroit area too. So welcome, Beth. Come on out and join me. Hi.
Hi, Shelley. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. And I was really excited when I saw your a bio that you had attended Oakland University.
Yes.
In Rochester.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I'm the charter class of Oakland University. I graduated. That's how long ago I did. And I went. And then I went back in the late '80s and got my music degree there also because I had wanted to. Back when I was younger, but they didn't have it in time. So anyway, we had to start. But we're here to talk about you and the topic when swiping right goes wrong. Wow, what a title. Would you like to explain what you mean by
that? Well, I went on Tinder and thought I met the love of my life and swiped right and it went wrong. And I'm going to tell you about all that. First, I've been in Portage for, what was that? I've been in Portage for about, sorry. I've been in Portage for about a year now. I lived in LA for a year and came back. And once I got back here, I felt settled, like this was home. And so about last summer, I was starting to feel kind of lonely and I didn't know anybody here and everything was new. I really isolated myself a lot. So fall comes around and I'm starting to come out of it. And I thought, I was married for 16 years and I had been divorced for 4. So I thought maybe it's time to start dating. And I hadn't met anybody here. So I thought maybe I should try a dating app. 2 women in my office have met their significant others on Tinder. So there's 8 people in the office. So that's like a quarter of success story. So I thought, well, let's try it. I'm like, it couldn't hurt. So I got some recent pictures of me, created a profile, went on and started swiping. It was all new to me because they didn't have this when I was dating before I was married, the last time I dated. So I matched with a few people and chatted and nothing really ever came of it. And so October 16th of last year, I matched with someone who called himself Richard Daub. And I remember seeing the words, "It's a match." And I was like, really excited for this one. Like his profile was really like similar to mine. So he was a nice looking guy. He looked like a lot of fun. And I don't think it's an accident that his profile was similar to mine. I don't know if they pick out certain people and then scammers, and then they just kind of create a profile very similar. And so I reached out to him and said hello. He reached out back, and we just started chatting. And he was very attentive, like asked a lot of questions, a lot of like deeper questions, like what are you looking for in a match? And he seemed very interested in who I was and what I did. And so a few days go by, and I was the one that suggested going off the app. I've learned since that it's a red flag when they want to get off the app. But back in the day when I was dating before, you met somebody and exchanged numbers right away. So I thought it was harmless. So we talked on the phone a few times that same week. And just, it was just so nice. It was just nice conversation. And I did notice that the cutesy emojis started coming in kind of soon, but I was okay with that. Normally it's a red flag to me, but I was really okay with that because I liked him a lot. And so that following Sunday comes around. It's been about a week, and it was a beautiful fall day, and he was like, "What are you up to?" And I said, "I'm going to go for a walk." And he said he's planning on going to play golf. And he said he was in Fort Wayne, which is about 2 hours away. That's what his profile said. So anyway, that day I was on my walk, and I get a text message from him, and it says, "Hey, I'm taking a break from the game. I just want you to know I'm thinking about you." And I just thought, wow, that's so sweet. I realized now that was like my first hook into the scam. That was like the first, like, when he started grooming me. And I was like, oh, wow. And then so over the next couple of days, our chats got a little more like, "You're so sweet. Oh my gosh. It's so, cutesy." And that Tuesday we talked about like meeting up that weekend, and we were going to meet halfway. And then but he said he might have to go to San Diego on business. He said he was a freelance project manager for a construction company, and he had a project that something was wrong. It was getting behind. So he said he had to go there. He'd be gone maybe a week. So he went over there, and sure enough, it was behind, and he was kind of upset. And it was really strange because that weekend that he got there, one night he like sort of broke up with me. And he said, like, he had to fire some people, and he was stressed, and he didn't know if he could be available. His communication would be poor. He had to focus on this job. And so he said, "If you want to start seeing someone else, I understand." And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to start seeing someone else." At this point, actually, earlier in the week, we were already saying like we were falling for each other. It was happening fast. I'm like, am I in love with this guy already, or starting to fall in love? And so I didn't understand the 180. And the next day, I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I'm okay. I can just move on. I'm disappointed, but I can move on. And he said he didn't want to cut off contact. He just wanted to move. It was going fast, he said. So he texted me, "Hey, good morning. How are you?" And I kind of sort of blew him off. I'm like, "Hey, I'm busy. I can't talk right now. I'll reach out to you later." And so that night I told him, I said, "You know what? I'm kind of upset now after the 180 you did. I need some time." I told him I needed like a couple days of just not chatting, not talking. And he said he made a mistake. He was really sorry. And he started saying, "I know you're the one for me in this lifetime, and I still want you." And I'm like, "I'm confused." And he said he got stressed out. He just, like, the emotions scared him. So I realized now that was like a tactic to, like, kind of to pull me in more. And I feel like that was the second hook. That was the one that, like, after that I was gone until the scam ended. I don't know where I went. I felt like I had amnesia. So I still wanted a couple days, and the next morning it just, like, all these romantic feelings just started like coming over me. And I messaged him, and I'm like, "I don't need a couple days." I said, I just told him that, I don't know, I was falling for him, and I was really happy. And actually, to backtrack a little bit, let me say that.
We have a question. Could you say that again? Yeah. Was he trying to see how much he had you on the line? I'm not sure.
Oh, you mean how, like how much like how deep I was in, like how much he.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, that would be
emotionally. Well,
if you
yeah.
must be pretty well hooked. If you don't, then you're not, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, when he tried to break up, I thought like, I'm good. But I think that was a test to see how hooked in I really was. And at this point, he had already, as they call it, groomed me enough where I was in, and I was just, the romantic feelings just like overwhelmed me, and I had Googled him like a week before and I couldn't find anything. And I remember I had this one moment of clarity where I'm like, something's really wrong. Like I had this feeling. And then it was the same thing. Like that night I was already in too deep. Like all these emotions like came over me. So from then on, it just moved forward, and he started, doing the poems, writing the poems. I was writing poems back. It was really intense. And I don't know, it just, everything seems so genuine, and I'm pretty intuitive. Like I'm like, it's hard to get something past me, but I realize now that that is their job, to manipulate, to get you so you're not even in your right mind.
That's right. That's what they do, and they're very good at it.
They're very good. It took me some time after to realize that this really isn't my fault. It was something that, and when you don't know that, like I didn't know, I knew there were scams. I didn't know that they went to the lengths to get you. And so I was vulnerable, I wasn't my fault, but I was vulnerable.
Right.
So,
and you don't know why he didn't write or wanted to back out for a while, and you thought, oh, that hurts, right? I mean,
yeah,
that was kind of, oh yeah, we were doing really well. What happened? But it
yeah.
isn't. And that's what we need to. A big point there is to let victims know that it isn't your fault, because these people
Yes.
really know how to manipulate you to do what they want you to do.
Yes. And like, I didn't know that was possible until afterwards.
Yeah,
And I can
I
see
didn't
clearly.
either.
Yeah.
I didn't.
It's like being in a trance. It's like being in a
Mhm.
trance. I say it's almost like I was kidnapped by aliens and then I escaped, and I looked back and said, what the heck just happened? Like, I can see how different it was than having, like, if I had really fallen in love with someone real and it didn't work out, it was very, very different. So that's really what I want to convey to people that are, they feel ashamed. They come out of this, they think it's their fault. No, 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 it's not your fault. So, um, so he was in San Diego and he was going to be there a lot longer than he planned, maybe a few weeks. We continued to chat. We were talking like twice a day at this point. And I had plans to go to LA in December to see my friend. And I'm thinking, well, he's in San Diego. And we had talked about meeting a few days before I was going to come home, and then coming home together. Like he was going to move here. Like this, he was going to retire and then start his own real estate business. And we were going to get a house and get married. And it sounds so simplistic, but that is kind of how I thought it was going to go. And then he told me he got a call from some, like the board of directors from this other company that he project a year before in Qatar. And it was during COVID, he never got paid for it. So they were contacting him about payment. And so he met with them, and then they had agreed, well, he talked to them on the phone, but then they agreed like to meet with him to handle this payout. And then he tells me, I think it was a week or two after that he had to go over to Qatar to get the funds. So here he is delaying our meeting again. His plan was still to, like, as he said, to like come back here from, come back the day before I came home from LA. He was going to come back here, and then he was going to pick me up from the airport. And so as far as I knew, it wasn't delayed, but I'll get to that later. It gets delayed again, of course. So then he goes over to Qatar, and we chat on Skype, and talking and chatting. And he had to hire a lawyer and a translator, like a lawyer, because he had to get documentation together to prove everything, and then a translator because he was over in the Middle East. So He paid his lawyer, and he was sending me the receipts. And some people have asked me, well, didn't that seem suspicious? Because why did he have to send them to you? Well, at this point, we're like unofficially engaged. And I thought like he was sharing everything with me, like he was sharing his financial information with his partner. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really cool. And that was to gain my trust, obviously.
Right.
So, he went to one day, he was telling me one day he had trouble logging into his bank account. And then he tried again the next day and he still couldn't do it. And he asked me to do it, to try it. So he gave me the username, password, the amount, like the transfer information. So I was able to get in, which was a fake bank account, obviously, to gain my trust. So I got in, I made the transfer, and I was so happy. I'm thinking, oh my God, we're a team. This is great. We're working together. And he was so excited. The next day, he has to pay his translator. And that was $21,000. And now it's like, what translator is $21,000? I didn't question anything. I questioned it all in my head. But it's like the manipulation, like the questions wouldn't come out. It's just like I dismissed them constantly in my head. Like there were so many red flags. Like if this company was supposed to pay him and he did the work, they would have paid for his flight, the lawyer, the translator, that all would have been paid for. I like see that now. And so anyway, he couldn't log in and I couldn't log in to pay his translator. And he's like, oh my gosh, I got to go. I got to try to figure this out. And so I talked to him later in the day, and his account, I guess the only way he could get the money was to go to this bank, it wasn't a common bank, but it was, the main branch was in England, and we had to go there to unlock it, to prove his identity. So he said his meeting with the board was like the next day, but he had to raise the money. And I was like, I have money in my retirement. I just, it's going to take a week or two. And he's like, he never asked me for the money. That's how manipulated I was. And he was even saying like, honey, relax. I'm trying to, work with my friend. It's like, he almost didn't want to burden me with it. That's what he made me think.
Right.
Yes. So the Friday goes by, he couldn't have his meeting. And then I'm like, I have to do something. I'm thinking to myself, this is my partner, my fiance. I have to do this. So I told him I would take out some loans and get him the money. And he was good, because he like cried like, oh my gosh, no one's ever loved me this much. I mean, obviously that was fake crying, but it sounded real. So I took out a loan, and then a cash advance on a credit card. And then I paid him through Bitcoin ATMs. He said that's like, his friend who was supposed to help him said he couldn't, but it's almost like he didn't know anything about Bitcoin. He goes, my friend says the best way to do this is for me to get a wallet with a QR code, and we do the money that way. And so over the course of the next 4 days, I got him the money. I took out an extra loan because there's all the Bitcoin ATM fees are pretty hefty. So I took out another $5,000. So he got $26,000 of my money. So we were excited. He had his meeting with the board. They awarded him the payout, which was supposed to be like $10 million, like $5 million, which would be his, after paying contractors. And this was the day I left for LA. And so he said he'd have a meeting with the financier the following Monday to figure out like how the payout is going to go. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in LA. He has his meeting Monday. They gave him options, but they said he had to do an inspection of the work. And we were supposed to meet that Friday. And I'm like, we're not going to meet, are we? I just knew it. He's like, I'm going to try. I just got to do this inspection. And he's like, then he said, well, let me talk to the financier. Maybe as my fiance, you can handle payout while I do the inspection. So the financier said, not a problem. He sent me a beneficiary form to fill out and sign, which I did. I sent that back to him. And we were talking about like, how do we handle this payout? Crypto or a bank check? And he was so good at letting me like, well, what do you think, honey? Like, okay, I'll make the decision. Let's do crypto because the bank fees are high, and it would take longer. So the company gave him a crypto website for me to create an account on, which I did, and then sent Richard had my scammer sent me an email to send to the customer service department. They assigned me an account manager, and I reached out to him, and it was done through WhatsApp, which now I'm like, wow, that would never happen through WhatsApp. So but I just went along. I thought that's how they do things. So the account manager reached out to me and asked for the account information, the beneficiary form, and my driver's license, and he was able to confirm everything. And he said the payment would show up within 24 to 48 hours. And so 48 hours later, I look and there's $10 million in this account. And so I said to the account manager, well, how do we convert this to cash? How do I get it to my bank account? And he said, well, first there's an activation fee of $50,000. I'm like, what?
Oh,
I'm like, why didn't you ever tell me this? And why didn't my scammer's company tell him that, there's this fee, activation fee? And I'm like, well, can't you take it out of the 10 million? And he's like, no, but it's a bond payment, so you'll get it back. And I'm like, well, then what's the point? So then I called my scammer and I told him, and he sounded disappointed, and I was disappointed. And I'm like, man, it's like, how long is this going to take for you to get home? So then I said, well, I do have that in my retirement account. Let me talk to my financial advisor. It's going to take some time to get the money out. So I called him, and something told me, like, I could have told him that I found a house and it's for a down payment. Something told me to tell him the whole story of what transpired. And when I said it out loud, I was like, okay, this does sound really bad. I just never said it out loud. And I still didn't suspect he was a scammer. I thought maybe the company was shady and trying to pull the wool over his eyes. But my financial advisor and his team had been trained in romance fraud. And he said, I'm required. I have to tell you this. I think you're in a romance scam. And I went, what? And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, but no, we're in love. No. But I couldn't ignore it either. Like, when I heard those words, I listened to him for an hour, and he's like, I have to call in our fraud department. They did, they can't tell me what to do with my money, but they did put a temporary freeze on my account. He's like, I need you to be like 60% sure that this is a scam. And I'm like, well, I'm at 30 or 40 now, but you have to give me time to wrap my head around this. So he sent me some articles on romance scams, and I read them and I cried. I'm just like, oh my God, I think this is what this is. But as I'm finishing up my conversation with my financial advisor, Richard called, he called and he texted me, are you there? And I said, yeah, just give me a minute. And I'm like, so at first I asked my financial advisor, I said, I don't know how to get out of this. I'm not ready. I don't know if I want to block him, if I want to confront him. And he was giving me advice. He's like, well, tell him that I'm out of town for 2 weeks and you need to sign a form and you need me there to do it. And then after that, it takes like 7 to 10 days. So you can stall him. So I got back to him and I told him all that, and he was sounding all disappointed. And I was, because I was, I'm an actor. So I decided to play along, and I was all disappointed, but I was more disappointed that it was a scam, because at this point I knew he's not coming home, So I was really grateful to my financial advisor, because he even said, he goes, I took a risk. He's like, what if I was wrong and I alienated you? And I said, I'm really glad you told me, though. So anyway, over the course of the next week, I played along. I made him think he was going to get $50,000 from me. It was kind of fun turning the tables, I mean, it was hard too. And so I continued to send him the poems and all that. And he was, he didn't have a clue. I was trying to be like, oh, we can do this, honey. Everything's okay. Mm-hmm. And then my financial advisor, I have the type of retirement account where it's not taxed. It's like a non-qualified account. But he said, tell him you have an IRA and you need the tax money up front to get the $50,000, which is actually true if you have an IRA. So I told him that. So I was trying to get money back from him at this point. And I thought, well, if the scammers think that 50,000 is worth $7, maybe he'll give it to me. And over the next few, I'm like, is there anybody, ask your friend? And he tried and he said he just couldn't get the money. So I kind of gave up on that. And I think that this is like Christmas time. So like I find out I'm in a scam 3 days before Christmas. And it was like probably the worst holiday season of my life. Christmas night, I didn't want to stay home. I just drove to Detroit. I have family in the Detroit area. Actually, it was Fenton in the Flint area. So I drove there. And then I had lunch with my aunt the next day and I told her everything that happened. And she was really supportive. I just like started to cry and she's like, this is not your fault. I mean, even she knew this is not your fault. And she's like, I should block him. And I'm like, well, I need a little bit of time. So then the following week, I think this was December 30th, I went to visit my aunt and my cousin. And it was kind of like, we like their Christmas celebration. So I was grateful to go there and be with my family. And they're like, I was getting kind of ready to cut things off. And they're like, why don't you do it tonight while you have your family around you? I'm like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. So they wanted me to talk to him. I'm like, no, he has to know that I know. So my cousin wrote this. It's like a 5-line limerick that was it was short and not so sweet. Basically telling him, I know about your scam. And I sent it to him and then I blocked him. And on Gmail, when you block people, it goes to your spam account. And I knew that. It doesn't get deleted. It just goes to your spam account. And the next day I'm like, I have to check. Because I'm like, I still wasn't 100%. I'm like, what if he's real and I broke his heart and I just betrayed him? And sure enough, there's emails the next day, saying, oh, how could you think this of me? You broke my heart. What got into you? And then of course, I reached back out and I knew I wasn't going to give him any more money, but I'm like, I have to know if let me play this out and see what he says and what happens. And so I reached back out and I came home. This was January 1st, New Year's Day. And so I get home and we talk and I almost really believed him. Like I started crying. I'm like, oh my God, I am so sorry. It was just everything that's happened is like textbook romance scam. And he kept claiming that I was scared to, commit myself to somebody. It was all me, and over the course of the next 2 days, as I'm talking to him, he's just getting more and more distraught and he would talk to me and he would say, you broke me, you broke my heart, but I love you and I can't stop loving you. But you broke my heart. And he would just go back and forth. I forgive you, but you broke my heart. And so it just felt, I think at that point I could feel the manipulation. And I thought, scammer or not, this does not feel good. It felt really toxic. And I said, I think I need to break it off. Still thinking that if he's real, I've betrayed him, but I was just kind of done with this. So a day, and the next day, I wasn't sure how I was going to do this again. And I decided, let me read another article on romance scam to refresh my memory. And I did. And I'm like, man, yes, this is a scam. So some of my coworkers knew about this, and my coworker helped me compose an email and confronting him again on everything and why it's a scam. Let me go back. The night before, he said, what if I had taken my own life? He threatened yeah. And that was like, oh no. And then, real or not, I don't want to be with someone who's threatening suicide. So I put that in the message and I sent it to him via Skype and cut him off again. And I'm thinking his next message is going to be like, whatever, you betrayed me again. It's over. And instead, his message was, I think you're just overreacting. I'm real. And the lie is the fear in your mind, and your mind's going to break. If you keep telling yourself this, you're going to get sick mentally and emotionally. I'll get you your money back, but please believe me, I'm not all these things you say I am. And it was just a lot of gaslighting, and like, it's all me. It's all the fear in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So my last message was, I don't believe you. I don't trust you. I don't want to talk to you. But you know what? If you want to bring me my money back, maybe we'll talk. And because I think I still had moments of hope after that, until it was like a week and a half later, I found the real pictures of the pictures of the real person. I did a search finally, and that was my closure. I knew that he was not real and it was a scam. And but I was still, obviously it hurt like heck. It really, that's hard. I had to come to terms with, now what do I do? And I went to Detroit to see another friend, and I had some wine, and I sent a drunken message to him, saying, I know you're a scammer, but I still love you. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I just do? On Skype, you can delete messages up for both parties, but I emailed it, but I never got a response back, thankfully. So I just had to come to terms with, it's been hard. It's not as raw. It still hurts. But in the beginning, it was just so hard. And I think the hardest part was separating the real person from the scammer. And I feel like I'm still doing that, it's like, I don't know, unless anyone's been in a romance scam, I think it's hard to understand how you can still love somebody who scammed you, there was a real, yeah. Have I moved on from that now?
Yeah. Have you moved on from that now? It says so. Tell us about how you moved on.
For the most part, yes. Obviously it still hurts. I had a bad day the other day, but I am doing a lot of advocating, podcasts, just getting the word out there. I'm working with Erin West on her Operation Shamrock team, on the victim services team. We're really just trying to get the word out there. That is really healing for me. For the most part, I can still see that he's a scammer, but I have to grieve the person I thought was real. Like, to me, that was my fiance who died.
Right.
But we're adding to that betrayal and trauma. And it's so much more convoluted and complicated. And so I, when it ended and I was out, I still oh my God, we'd be together doing this. And I don't do that so much anymore,
Yeah.
But I
have to not thought about it anymore. It says, have you thought about emailing him since the last time?
No, I don't have the temptation anymore to do that. Yeah, I think they went away quietly, but I don't know. I never got any threats, and I've heard they can still reach back to you. Sometimes they reach out and say, I fell in love with you through the scam, and we know that's a scam, but I haven't heard from him, and I'm pretty much over that feeling of wanting.
Did you ever get the feeling that maybe it was more than one person talking to you?
Yes. I'm almost certain. I feel like there was one person talking to me on the phone, but when I went back to, because I have all my evidence. I still have chats. I have everything. When I've gone back on chats, I have the part where he's talking about how to transfer money from his account. I could tell it was different. My scammer was, the main one was pretty good with punctuation and grammar. He was actually quite good at it. But these other ones, none of the I's were capitalized. Nothing was capitalized. So, and sometimes whoever it was would say a term of endearment that my scammer never called me, like baby or darling or something. And I'm like, now I look back and I'm like, yeah, I'm certain that it was multiple people that were
Yeah.
in on this.
Yeah, I had that feeling too sometimes because I would bring up something I had said or we had talked about previously, and the person seemed not to even know that we'd had that conversation.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that should have been a red flag, and it was. That was one that I wrote in there. But one of the things that was wrong with me, as soon as I said, no, I'm not going to give you any more money, that's when I turned on the accusations. Well, you don't really love me then, or
Mm-hmm.
started to make me feel guilty, made me to make me feel bad.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, as soon as you have some of these I have red flags in my book, 38, I think 38 of them. As soon as you see some of those, immediately, like if they ask for money, that's,
Yes.
it's for sure. And especially if they ask for currencies. So I
Oh my God.
and Bitcoin now, they didn't have those back when I had my problem. It was
Yeah.
vouchers and gift cards, and I got so tired of buying gift cards. But
Yeah. Well, yeah, now crypto and it's a lot less traceable. You can still trace it, but they break it off into multiple accounts pretty
right.
quickly. So it's a lot
But I
harder to
think
trace.
they're going to make you feel bad if you don't stop talking to them. And I know
Yeah.
you want to. I wanted to too, but
Mm-hmm.
I was so hung up on mine. I even was looking forward to our wedding and that, and I was buying some clothes for my honeymoon. And I thought, oh, I felt so foolish afterwards.
Get that because I was picking out engagement rings and sending pictures of what
Oh,
I
you
wanted.
were? Yeah.
Yeah, I was, and
We were
actually
really
I was looking at wedding dresses too, and I think I sent some to him, and I'm like, and you think back, and they must be like as a scammer, like what are they thinking? Like I've got her, ha ha ha. But I mean,
Mhm.
I know the truth. Like they cannot be happy. They are miserable people, and they think money is everything, and it's not. I mean, I feel like that doesn't bring you peace ultimately. If you're not
Right.
at peace with who you are, it doesn't bring peace. So good luck with that. I mean, I don't say that lightly because they're taking people's money and it's horrible. And but I'm also writing a book, and
Oh,
I'm gonna publish the book with all the chats because I feel like people victims I think it's easier to relate to the grooming process when you can actually see a live chat, how it goes and how it works. And people that
mhm.
don't understand it or people that judge it, they can see that it's very different. Because I went on a couple dates since my scam, and the conversations were very different than it was with my scammer. They were just very like give and take, and it wasn't a bunch of emojis and like oh my
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was very calm
Very,
conversation and given,
mhm.
like I said, give and take and asking each other just basic questions. So yeah.
Right. I noticed that you said on LinkedIn there that you advocate for women who are victims and are afraid to speak out. Would you advise people to talk about their experience like you are, like I am? Doesn't it
Yeah,
help? Don't you
it
find it help?
really It really does. The moment my advisor said I was in a scam, when I hung up the phone, I never felt so lonely in my life. I called a friend right away. I had to tell somebody, even though I still wasn't 100% sure. If he's not a scammer, I'm betraying him by telling my friend, but I took a chance because I needed to tell somebody right away. And I fortunately have supportive friends and family and coworkers. My coworkers know. But yeah, I think I understand why women, I know men get scammed too, but I understand why people, I should say, are embarrassed, and a lot of them
Mhm.
don't want to relive it. And it's hard because when I writing a book and going back to the chats, I do relive it and emotions come up. But I feel like when they come up, that means they need to come out. And the more I get it out, the better I feel. And I'm just hoping more women will find the courage to share or share with somebody you know is safe or somebody that an advocate first. I mean, it's something, sharing it with somebody. Sometimes it might be easier to share it with a stranger who has been through it.
So I didn't hear, did you report it to police or law
Yes,
enforcement? Did you,
yes.
who was that? Who
First,
did you?
my police department, I reported it to them, and then the FBI, the Federal Trade Commission, Better Business Bureau, um, the district attorney's office in Grand Rapids, because there were some romance scammers in my area that were working with Nigerians, and they scammed some people. So they thought that maybe it was my scammers, but my scammer's name wasn't on their list. But I reported it to whoever I
You
could, everybody.
heard back from the law enforcement agency then?
Um,
Uh,
I reported it also to the Secret Service. They have like I think a crypto
Oh,
department, and they tried to trace it, and they said it's at this point it's too far gone down the chain, and usually you have to do it within 24 to 48 hours. But I haven't heard back from the FBI. Was the law helpful?
yeah.
Good question. My particular police department, it's unfortunate because they did the police report, but they closed the case. They don't think it's a crime, but they just don't know, like training for them. Aaron West was willing to do it for free. It was our
Mhm.
training, but there wasn't enough of an interest. Like, they have some training in it and crypto training, but I don't feel that they have enough training in. They didn't think I was coerced, but they don't know that the coercion is in the manipulating, the emotional
Mhm.
hijacking, where
Right.
they basically, I feel like my brain was kidnapped. That's what it feels like. And it's not just my police department, it's a lot of them, but I wish more like would get some training, and that's part of what I want to do is I'd like to get trained in, romance fraud training and help and get the word out.
Yeah, well, that's what I did too, and I signed up for that Operation Shamrock to help, but I
Mhm.
haven't heard much back about it. So, have you? I mean, if they got you involved,
Yeah, there was I think there was after, did you go to the meeting?
no.
There was like over 500 people on the kickoff meeting that Aaron West had. And I think you had to click on something saying that what team there's different teams like victim services and
Mhm.
banking. There's different like groups. And so I
I
think, yeah,
filled out a form of some kind like that
yeah. Yeah. And
somewhere.
then,
Mhm.
yeah, and then they emailed me, I think, saying, "What team do you wanna be on?" And
Mhm.
I don't think it's too late, I can check. I mean, like, I think
Well,
some other people have asked it. The victim services team is what I'm a part of, so,
so
um
how would someone get in touch with Operation Shamrock if, do you know? Would it be on LinkedIn or basically Aaron
there
West?
yes, there's a page on LinkedIn for Operation Shamrock, and Aaron West also has a LinkedIn profile. So, I'm sure that there's a way to reach out. Um, yeah, or even, like, I could, if someone's interested, they can reach out to me, and I can talk to someone too, Aaron, or yeah.
Would you like to share your email address if someone wanted to contact you? And mine's on the screen. uh,
Yeah, sure. It's Beth.Hyland, Hyland 7, the number 7, at gmail.com.
okay, that should be easy enough to remember. And
Yeah.
I heard that the more of us that get together and go to the police or station or whatever and try to get them to do something, they will listen to us more when there's 5 or 6 of us or 10 or 12 than just one. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm an old lady, so what they do, they patted me on the back and said, "Well, you won't ever get your money back. We're sorry it happened to you," but and that's about all I got the whole time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm really glad to see that Aaron is trying to get the word out and that I'm helping here and you're helping there with your speaking. And
Mhm.
let's hope that the
Yeah.
future we can kill this problem. I say
Yeah.
the solution to the problem is for people to know that this is going on and to stop talking to them, block them.
Yes.
Don't send anybody money. No matter how much you think you know them, you don't know them.
Don't know them. You do not know them if you've not met them.
Right.
And
Right.
it's never too late to come forward, and it has to stop. That's all I can say. This has to stop, and I won't stop until it stops. I'll fight this the rest of my life if I have to.
Yeah, and it's not just older people that are targeted for this particular romance scam, but I got something yesterday about sextortion with teenagers. They do all of this, and a lot of them, they don't know who they should talk to, or they feel too guilty, embarrassed to talk to anybody, and they end their lives, and that's a real shame.
Those are the Nigerian romance scammers called Yahoo boys. Yeah. And those are the main ones doing the sextortion, and then the pig butchering done in Southeast Asia.
I was told we don't have any control over those or no help at all from the Nigerian government. So, and we don't have any jurisdiction.
I know someone that works with them directly.
Do you?
Yeah. I'm not actually sure if I should mention him, because I didn't get permission from him. So, but
changing anyway, and that's what we wanted, changing for the good, hopefully, to get more and more people informed about what is going on and how we can get law enforcement more involved in helping, and how we can support one another.
Exactly.
Right.
That's it.
Well, we're almost out of time, I see, and I want to thank you for being here. And I hope
it was a pleasure.
Go to lunch sometime or something.
I'd like to. Good to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And the next time you get real lonely, give me a call.
I will, for sure. We'll meet, like you said. That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
It was
and I want to say to the audience, thank you for being here today. And I want to tell about next week, we're going to go back to the Middle Ages again with Keenan Booker. So please be joining us, same time, same station, 12 o'clock noon Eastern Daylight Time on W4CY Radio. Bye now. Thank you.
Bye.
And thanks for being there. See you.
Thank you. You're welcome.